started, we had no class this morning. So let's talk about classroom design. First, some context. So looking at this proposed classroom building, it's only a classroom building. So there are no canteens, there are no admin spaces. It's just a 4-story classroom building with 20 classrooms located in Barangay San Nicolas, uh, Basak San Nicolas, Cebu City. So that's the map over there, north up there. You see it's near University of San Recoletos, Basak campus. And then you have the perspective over there. And then this is basically the document for that you submit to the office of the building official. Interestingly enough, they forgot to include the title block here. So you can see that it's drawn manually. They had to write in land use and zoning, etc., etc., etc. Approved by Mayor Rama as of June 19, 2021. And you see the whole campus here. You see the gym, you see the classroom buildings, more classroom buildings. I think the admin buildings are somewhere over here. You have the canteen over there, the HE building, feeding center, 3-story, 6 rooms, etc., etc. So this is more or less kind of like what you're doing now, that you're not building on an empty lot. You're trying to locate a classroom building on this site. Actually, let's go to Basak San Nicolas for like a better image. Basak San Nicolas. Crap, I should have entered the address. Okay. So, oh, I moved it. Okay. Let me just find the address. Okay, that's pretty much all the address they're going to give me. It's near, oops. It's near the school. Let's look for a high school over here. Big school, big school. This looks like it. No, that's not it. This should be it. San Vicente. Vicente Memorial Hospital. This is it. Hang on. Gym, and then open space, and then road. Gym. It says hospital. Open space, and then road. I think this is the site, more or less. It fits the shape. There's like a big lot over there. Let me see if there are any other possible locations. The campus is over there. Let me see if this is updated. We got gas station. Open lot, open lot. Yeah, I really think this is it. Why does it say Don Vicente Rama Memorial? Oh, I thought it was like a hospital or something. So it's really the school. So this is it. Switch that to 3D. And then we see that the proposed location of the building is here. Let me new layer that. Proposed building location is here. Okay, so that should be around this part over here, the like open space, or maybe this. Let's see. Yes, so somewhere here. Like somewhere over here. These are like open lots. Okay, so that took a minute. Anyway, so to those who are here, how many are we? Like 17? So they'll probably demolish some existing buildings. Maybe this one. And they'll probably demolish this old building here. It's like single-story school to put up a new 4-story, 20 classroom building. It's probably the site here. And then let's talk about very quickly site selection. So there's an open area over here. And basically they could have opted to put it here. but probably they wanted to preserve the open space. So they were left with just the old building, or more likely, they thought this old building needed to be upgraded, so that's why they chose that building instead. And then this open area here, I think should be, it's a good idea to preserve it because you can have like a lot of different activities there, and it could also double as some kind of, this is the main entrance. This is the main entrance, it's just that. It could also double as like, what do you call this, like evacuation center, gathering space, public activities, etc., etc. So in all your sites, future sites, you should really keep in mind the importance of having open space. So with regards to your classroom and building design, we see here, let me open up some submissions. So we'll see here. So like Joseph's submission over here, you have basically the passageways and the spaces, and then in between the spaces, you're preserving the, what do you call this, detention ponds. With regard to the detention ponds, I've seen a lot like put passageways like this, like that cross the detention ponds. If it's light materials like pavements or like little steps, bitaw, let me delete this. Like concrete pavers. Images. If it's something like this, it should be okay. But if you have like a whole slab of concrete there, I don't think it will be okay. That's why in those 5 people who I've checked, I mentioned that you shouldn't block the passageway of water like this. And if you're going to put like concrete there, it should be minimal or like something like this, like pavers, and not like a whole slab of concrete, because then you'll be blocking the flow of water. Also, if you really can't, like, if you really need a slab of concrete there, another solution would be, like if you need like a slab of concrete that's like that big, you're covering 3 detention ponds and there's really no more way for you to like manage the space, you can increase the existing detention ponds. Increase the size, and over here you increase that, something like that. Now question, how deep should the detention ponds be? Ponds. Does anyone have any idea? How deep should the detention ponds be? Of course, if you participate, I'll be writing down your name. 4 plus points. For 5 plus
What
points.
meter, sir?
Huh?
Meter?
Pila to? 1?
1?
No, 1 is too shallow.
I was thinking 1.5 to 2 meters. Sir.
2 meters would be the best one. You can find this data on like different Google sources, but I've what do you call this? I've studied the Lantawan article, and then there's not the school design, but on detention ponds specifically, they what they call this? They said a minimum 2 meters deep detention ponds. If you can go deeper, maybe 3 meters, then it would be, or maybe 2.5. Then we'd be as deep as a level, which probably like a room level. Probably not too good, but 2 meters, I think good enough. But if you're gonna have like a 3 meter deep detention pond, it becomes kind of like a different space, and it'll be hard to access. It becomes like a built-in pool in your design. Although I think you could do that, we just need to find further research for that. Anyway, so yes, 2 meters the depth for your detention ponds. What else? Other common problems. I think these are the biggest ones. Anyway, back to classroom design. So in this particular project, they already have like a very clear idea of where they want the building to be. So that's where they put it. And then let's look at the classroom design itself, the classroom itself. So this is around 9 by 7. That's Okay, 4.5, 4.5. So this is Shift N, B. Sige. So this is 9, and this is 7. Okay. Now the first thing that stands out to me are really the doors. So they have doors that open the full 180. This isn't very common, I think, at least not in Safad, if I remember correctly. Most of us like have seen the 90-degree door. Um, I think it's a problem. I think it's an issue with the like what do you call that? Maintenance of the door. If you remove it the full 180, it might break down faster. That's why usually we use doors at only 90 degrees. And then you need to ask yourself why are they doing this? Number one, let me delete this. Number one, whenever you have a big classroom, like it's big-ish 9 by 7, when you have like a public space like this, always important to have the doors open outwards, never inwards. Why? Because in case of emergencies, fires, etc., people get startled or like are in a panic. Um, the natural sort of behavior of human beings is to push outward. If the doors were opened like this, that, and then there's an emergency and the people are trying to get out quickly, and if it swings the other way, that will like cause them time, or like even worst case scenario, it causes them to break the door, or even worse, they get stuck inside the room, and then you'll have um, some casualties that could have been avoided if you just designed the door to swing outwards. Next, let's see here. The podium over here, very strange shape. It seems like it's impossible to stand here. So I think this is just like a decoration, just to show where the front of the class
I
is.
think that's a board, sir. It's
Oh, that's the
usually curved.
board. Ah, okay, thank you. Very good catch. Who is that?
Jean, sir.
Okay, Gene. I'll just write you down. Write you down over here. Any participation, I'm like very keen, very appreciative. So I'll just add that to our like list. Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. That's the board over there. What are these like CFs? I think these are lamps. I think overhead like light bulbs. These CFs. There's no legend here. Ceiling fans. That's what the CF is for. So these are ceiling fans. Notice they are a distance of about, let's say, that's 4.5, about 6 meters apart. So thinking about the ventilation in your classroom. Going back to our site plan over here. So this is east, west, north, south. And if you remember your, what do you call this? Windrose diagram, major winds are coming from the northeast, minor winds coming in from the southwest. So this orientation is very good. I think most of us in the in our site here for our plate, let me switch that to 2D. We're kind of forced to have our building follow a east-west orientation because of the shape of the site. So how do you catch more wind like coming in from the northeast and the southwest? Maybe you could do something like vertical fins for buildings, facade. Something like that, or like angled fins. Images. Could maybe do something like this, or like ventilation architecture. So if you Google ventilation architecture, you should be able to find these diagrams. For facade design, let's see, facade design, something like this. Ventilation architecture fins.
Sir, opinions on, what do you call this, wind catchers on schools? What do you think? Kung okay ra ba, like
Wind
possible?
wind catchers. I'm not familiar with the term. I'll just Google it. Wind catchers. Okay. Let's see. Wind. Ooh, is this it? Is this the thing you're talking about?
Yes, sir. Kay especially sa ground floor, matabunan man gud siya sa yuta.
Hmm. Well, good. This is very good, actually. This is the first time I've heard of this. So good job. Yeah, look at this. This looks very. This is like being used where mainly. Looks like Middle Eastern countries.
Yes, sir.
I wonder why we're not doing this. This is very good. My opinion is, yeah, if you can do it, put it into your design. So let me. I'll just put your name up here as well. Okay. This is
Tama, sir.
okay. Tebes. Okay. This is Gulisao. Okay. Okay. So contextually, if this was our San Carlos site, the ground floor would be covered in like foliage. So very good idea because I was walking in that area, especially let me just do here, especially this area at the back of the road where it's covered with so many trees. It really gets hot, even though it's like open air. And then as I was walking down here near the streets, like in front of the SMED building, it was a lot cooler because for some reason, less trees was a lot cooler over here. I guess it's because it's less humidity and it was like not really afternoon yet, like middle, like what time was it? Around like late afternoon, maybe actually like mga 2 or 3 p.m. It wasn't very hot in this area. For this area, you can really feel the humidity. So this area with a lot of trees really gets very humid. So wind catchers might be a very good idea to solve that. Okay, and back here. So some of you are mentioning energy conservation, less use of electricity. So maybe it's those kinds of devices like built into the structure will reduce the reliance on electricity, and then will make your classrooms cooler. Okay, because you have to think about the users. So we're so focused on the floor plans, but what about if we think about classrooms in the first person perspective? So you're in a classroom. Let's see here. So you're in a classroom, 2.7 meters high, ceiling height. You're sitting down on your chair. You're looking at the blackboard. There you have like other students near you. How do you make this space more comfortable? So the things we just talked about is ventilation. You have a ceiling fan over here. You need to have windows or openings. It's up to you how to design your windows. And then you have your door over here. Something like that. The other issue that I don't think we address so much is that we really need windows on both ends of the classroom. In SAFAD, you notice we rely on air conditioners so much. Air conditioners over here. It's because we don't have the windows over here. I don't know, maybe it could have been a cost issue. I really think it's a cost issue the more I think about it, that because glass is expensive, I can very clearly see the administration saying, oh no, we'll just close this up and put air conditioners. Or maybe they say, oh, maybe ours, it could also be a social thing where the administration is thinking, our students are paying such high tuition, why use natural ventilation when we can just use air conditioners? So something like that. A lot of factors go into that. But if you are saying that you want to use air conditioners, maybe you can give a reasoning as to why. If you're saying that you want to use like natural ventilation because you want to reduce electricity costs, then of course you're not going to use air conditioners. I think we have a couple of statements over here. Where's that going? Ah, there. Go ahead, Rona. Hello? I can see you raising your hand, or is that a typo? Or like accidental?
Yes, sir, Ataragay.
Go ahead. Hello?
I also think, sir, that kanang maybe Safad took down that side of the window because, of course, kanang it can also be a form of distraction when there's a class going on and passerbys are passing along the corridors.
Acoustics, yes. Okay, that's another very good reason. So we have number one over here, ventilation. So these are the factors for comfort. So whenever we just mentioned earlier this meeting that people usually put in their objectives principles of whatever X. It could be accessibility, comfort, etc., etc. And then when I put in your what do you call this? When I check your schematics and I'll put the word too vague. What do I mean by that? I mean by that I want you to explain what exactly are you going to talk about or like tackle in your design. So if you say principles of comfort and stop there, that's too vague. But if you talk about ventilation, talk about acoustics, and then you talk about lighting, and you talk about energy use, that is what makes a good objective. Don't stop at, I'll use sustainability principles in my design, full stop, period. That's too vague. So you need to highlight exactly which principles are applicable. Okay, because then if you break this down one by one, you can very clearly see like the different things that you want to put in your classroom. So we want ventilation. So we have ceiling fans. I'll just label that as CF. We have open windows. And then as we just like figured out, one reason why Safa didn't have the windows here could be for acoustics. Because when you list down these different, what do you call this, factors of comfort, principles of comfort, you'll notice that they'll more likely or more often than not conflict with each other, just like with acoustics and ventilation. You want your room to be like very comfortable to sit in, but at the same time, you don't want your students to be distracted by people coming in from the hallways, like peeking into the room, making noise, blah, blah, blah. So you're kind of forced to take away the benefits of ventilation for considering acoustics. Like if you have your teacher up here, and also I like when I first went to Safad, as a teacher, it was very difficult for me because I have like a low voice to reach the people at the back. So maybe this very deep classroom design isn't good, like 9x7, but we're forced to use this dimension for our problem. So maybe you can think about how do we improve the acoustics of our Safad classrooms. Also notice our Safad classrooms are swing in atong doors, no? If I remember correctly. That's like another weird like option. It's supposed to be swing out, but I think they have like their reason or something. So we have our podium here, and we have our chairs over here, and then we have windows on the other side. Okay. So based on your, just like a quick question, based on your experience, how is the acoustics if you sit in this area? You sit back here. I guess it just depends on the teacher, right? If they have like a big enough voice. But for the most part, I think this space here is really the sleeping space. If you feel tired, you go back here. But that's just like part of the classroom behavior. And then we're kind of forced to have a 9-meter by 7-meter classroom. So if it's in your objectives to create a classroom that's more conducive for learning, maybe you could use materials that help sort of reduce this sort of possibility. Maybe like add larger windows in the back so it's lighter here, and maybe you can use what do you call this? I don't know if there's like any way we can change the shape of the 9x7. Maybe like in the section, since if some of you are like building on the slope, let's say this is the slope over here. I'm going to color the slope in light green. So that area of the site where the slope is like higher than 20%, something like that. Maybe you could make your classroom, even though it's still 9x7, make it like that, following the slope. And then you can have your, let me reduce my brush size. You can have your teacher here. You can have your students sit here, like that. And maybe that will improve the acoustics of your classroom, something like that. If you're going to build here. The other issues for the building on this site will be, how do you do your hallways? How do people like get to here? You do that in 3D. You have your hallway there. And then how do you arrange your second floor? Or are you just going to build on top like that? And then you just have like traditional stairs to go up there. Okay. Another sort of factor is lighting. So they indicated the ceiling fans in their floor plan, but I think they will also indicate their, let me see here. I closed it. Oh, well. I think they also indicated their lighting fixtures. Reference AR3100, plate number 2, Basak, annex plans. I think it's somewhere here. Let's see, 25 to 28. Come on, open. Open. So this is the plumbing, so not yet. Maybe over here. This is structural. I think electrical is somewhere at the back. And it's architectural again. Wait, okay, it's arranged backwards, my bad. Okay. Let's see, here we go, electrical. So this is the typical first page of electrical drawings. So some of you are already doing utilities or finished with utilities. Let me move this. So it's labeled E, this is E01, and this is a diagram of the panel board and the schedule of loads. You'll be taught how to calculate this. Although me personally, I'm very weak with this. I usually just copy the standards and like let the engineers figure it out. Okay, so for the classrooms over here, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 like sort of the long tubular lamps, lighting fixtures at 18 watts. So, and then the way they're connected is like this. Oops. In the main wire connected this, and the panel board is, where's the panel board? Over here. This is where the panel board. So basically, this panel board controls electricity flow to all of the fixtures here. And yeah, it's kind of set up like this. So let's see, what about the power layout? Lighting layout, reflect lighting layout. Power layout is where you find the switches. Let's see here. Let's see. Ceiling fan, outlets. So these are the outlets over here. If you see these little circular knobs. And the switches are, I think this is the switches here. That's a very small S symbol. Or no, I think that's a slab symbol. Doesn't show the switches. Anyway, so we're thinking about lighting. So they use like 4 lighting fixtures. So I'll just color the lighting fixtures in, let's say darkish yellow over here. Maybe a little bit more yellow there. So lighting fixtures, you need 4 at least, or based on your designs or based on the wattage of the lighting fixture itself. Let's make that like that. It's too dark. Supposed to, okay, maybe this one. So 4, maybe you only see 2 here. Need a 4 somewhere over there. So I think in our SAFAD classrooms, we have about the same. They look like this. If I remember correct, it's been so long. I haven't been in the classroom. I just looked at the classrooms from the outside. And notice that because of our because the SAFAD classrooms value acoustics, and because we don't have the openings here, our classrooms in SAFAD tend to be very dark. And of course, that leads to this again, sleeping. It becomes like a sleeping area instead of a learning area. So many trucks. Okay. So these are basically a very simple, like 4 sets of factors that you can put into your objectives, and then you can prioritize which one is the most important for your design. So for SAFAD, we can clearly say that the priority is acoustics, number 1, followed by, I think, lighting, number 2, because we have like ample lights, and then ventilation as number 3, and then energy as number 4, because we use a lot of air conditioning, we use a lot of artificial lighting, and we use a lot of not so much natural ventilation in our classrooms. It's really because we use a lot of air conditioning, and then artificial lighting. Okay. So if you want to make your, what do you call this? Your classrooms more energy efficient, you need to increase your openings, increase your natural ventilation, like that. And maybe you don't use louvered windows here. Maybe you can have still an opening. The thing is, if it's just glass, it lets light in, like fixed glass. Lets light in, but doesn't let wind through. So that's really a challenge. So how do you make it so the hallways are quiet, but also at the same time open up for natural ventilation? So that could be an issue. Or maybe you could do something like this. Another thing that's very prominent in Filipino architectures, we have vents up here and vents sort of like vents down here, like that. This could be made of glass or like wood. You can see this in a lot of public schools. And I think this really makes it like better for ventilation, while at the same time reduces distraction. So you don't see anyone, but you might be able to hear someone like running here. So that there could be some noise over there. So that's how basically, I think that's pretty much all of it for like distractions in the school. What else do you think are factors for learning or like creating a classroom? Anyone can feel free to join. See here. So while you guys are thinking, another thing I think that will affect lighting is the depth. 7 meters. If you make a section of this, let me here and make a section of this. Let's say you're on, let's just make the 4-story building. Oops. Did I change the color? Okay, there we go. Let's say you're building somewhere here. This is the slope. You're building on the flatter areas, and you have 4 stories. Let's see, 4 stories, about that. 1, 2, 3. And you have your hallways here, hallways here, hallways here, hallways there. And then you have your roof. I'll just make a basic hip roof. Something like that. Might need to have a column up here. So you can roof that all the way there. Okay, maybe something like that. And then it's drawing in the trusses. Okay. Maybe I need to put this a bit distracting down there. Okay. So if this is like 7 meters in depth, I think light only travels, like if you have an opening here, let's say your opening is about this big. Like let's say up the floor from the ground slab about let's say 0.9 meters. The height of your window is about 1.2. And then let's say the whole thing is 2.7. 2.7. So how much are you left with up there? 2.7 minus 1.2 minus 0.9. You have 0.6 up here. 0.6. Okay. 0.6. Then in between will be like your utilities. Very likely the light that will shine in from the outside will probably only reach somewhere here, like in the middle of the room. Let's say about 3.5 meters. Let's say the 3.5 meters. Sorry if it's yellow and it's hard to see. Meaning this area here, and like in blue, this area will be very dark. I think there's really no other choice except to have, because of the size of the room, we're like forced to have artificial lighting. Unless you design your buildings in a way that you also have windows on this side. But because we need hallways on this other side over here, light will probably only reach up until the wall. So even if you have like openings, if you make this whole wall a window, you make this whole wall a window here. It might be difficult for light to enter your room. So this would be about, I really recommend like 3-meter hallway over here. So the whole thing is about 10, and then from the edges, without like at the edge of the hallway, this will probably reach like somewhere here. It's around like 5-ish meters. And then it even gets more tricky because you have to think about rain as well. So if we need to have roof eaves here, good thing I already like added the roof eaves there. This is about 1.2. So this will be moved further back. So maybe this is now like 2 to 3 meters only that you're getting natural lighting inside your building. So how do you address that? That could be like another like challenge for you. So just looking at this section, how to address it becomes very difficult. So we're kind of forced to have artificial lighting the whole day when we're having classes in our like proposed senior high school.
Sir,
Yes, go ahead.
I was wondering if maybe the eaves could double as light shelves, so they could like reflect light off of the top of the eave and then into the class above it.
Ooh, like if it reflects like that.
Yeah, because if we have some sort of light control, like you have the, I don't know how to explain it. It's like panels of glass that layer on top of each other in the window, and since it's angling down to stop like direct glare, the roof eaves reflecting upwards could just bring light onto the ceiling.
That's very
Something
good.
like that.
That's very good. I actually never heard of that before. So that's like the kind of innovation I'm looking forward to you guys. So you can like put that in here. You don't even need to draw it. You can just like have an image and say you're going to put it there. And that already like to me makes your design better. Okay. And then let's say the opening is, your opening should fit that angle. Maybe like something, maybe like increase it a bit. Increase the opening. So from like 0.9, maybe reduce it to what do you call this? 0.5. I think that would be good. While also having this as 0.6. And then let's say 2.7 minus 1.1. So your window opening will be now 1.6. That's just a 0.4 meter difference. But if you use the technology or the idea that Joseph had, this could very greatly increase the lighting in your what do you call this? Classroom. Maybe you could do something similar here, but that's a challenge with it being on the ground floor. Some of the factors that we need to worry about on the ground floor, as mentioned earlier, ground floors tend to be more humid. We have lesser lighting, access to lighting because we're on the ground floor, and also less, let's say, less lighting and ventilation. Up here, so this is less humid. Let's write that better. Less humid, more lighting and ventilation. So that's a benefit of the upper floors. I guess a con of the upper floor would be less accessible. When we say accessibility in architecture, we mean like how easy it is to get here. So because you need to go upstairs, that's like less accessibility, and it gets harder to get upstairs further and further. Okay. And then here's already 125. Basically, this is how you think about your class. How I want you guys to think about designing your classrooms. How is the light coming in? How is the wind coming in? And then to sort of like improve wind access, the best way is really to look at your site plan. So if your site is something like this, let me just take a screenshot of the site again. Let's see, snip. Okay, save site SHS. Downloads. Get over here. Whoa, big. Put that over there. Okay. And then I think I'll just write over here. So I think I mentioned it before that we're trying to do something other than ArchiGlobal. But even if your building is already here, even if the massing of your building is kind of like ArchiGlobal with the H shape, you can still do a lot more. There's still room to do a lot of unique things. Like as mentioned earlier, because the orientation is like this, wind is coming in over here from the north is over there. Wind is coming in from the northeast and the southwest. Maybe we can use those wind catchers and also like vertical fins, something like that. So the way these fins work is you erase this, or you could also like still have that, but the fins will be attached to your eaves. Imagine this is like the eaves of the classroom. I'll just draw the whole 4 floors. Let's say that's one side of your classroom. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Erase that. Okay, I want to catch the southwestern winds with fins that are oriented like this. So the fins will be resting on the eaves. Okay, those are your eaves. I'm just exaggerating them. Just erase that so they're all aligned. And then you have your like roof eaves, your superstructure up there. And then you can have something that sort of projects outward at an angle. Something I think better in plan. So I'll just draw that in plan. That's your roof eaves over there. This is your classroom in here. Classroom doors. Classroom doors. Classroom doors. And then you can have like fins that look like this. The problem is like these are additional costs, but maybe in the long run, it will reduce your reliance on what do you call this? artificial ventilation. And then, of course, you have your windows here. I think you can just have this whole thing a window. Let's color that in blue. Windows, windows, windows. And then you need to have some kind of opening on this end. Because the thing with natural ventilation, if this area here is closed, if this area is closed, the doors are also closed most of the time. We close the door, we close the door. Wind typically won't go in because there's no, what they call this, positive and negative pressure. Basically, wind needs an outlet. So like water won't flow if it's like enclosed in a space. Wind won't do this if the doors here are closed. More likely, you need to have some kind of opening here, like that, to have the wind like actually go into the space. So this is like tropical design. Your tropical design teacher can explain this in a better way, but that's the general idea. If it's closed, wind won't flow. So just think of it like water. And if that happens, more likely the wind will like enter a bit into like would enter here and then like go out like that because it has nowhere to run, nowhere to flow into. And like the detention ponds, if you put like major structures over here, and just like reiterating again, very important. If you have a structure here and you have like a detention pond here and detention pond here, the water won't flow. It gets like trapped here. And then this becomes an area where probably more water will flood. So you need to have some porous area. So you need to break up this pathway here. Okay, you have like the other webinars like going. Break up that pathway there. Have your detention ponds here so that the flow is maintained. Okay. Also, as I mentioned earlier, you can increase the size of your detention ponds. You can actually just make the whole thing in between your buildings a detention pond. It's really up to your design. Now, the detention ponds, when it's not raining, are dry. So you could probably make your detention ponds double as like a study space or like park space. Like open park, open areas, like sitting areas, you can put it here. Open park. So they serve double duty. They help prevent flooding. At the same time, during the dry season, they're gathering spaces. So this is how you make, basically, you get more use out of your land, out of your site. So that's basically it. What else? What else? It's already 11:30. I think we discussed everything. Oh, just a bit more on the eaves situation. I think my truss is too big. Oh, which layer is this on? Okay, here. The truss is too big. Truss is too big. Let me clean that up a bit. Maybe something like that. Oops. Something like that. So I would advise about 1.2 meters over here. 1.2 meters over here. Maybe you can make this lesser, but it all depends like how wet do you want this area to be? Because even SAFAD has this problem. If you notice some of the studios in this area over here, this area over here, like this exact spot, water comes in here every time it rains. And I think that's just like an oversight that even the Espinas didn't consider, that now it's being closed up and now it's like a mini garden. So be careful about the shape of your building. Notice that this side, if you go oriented to the north, shouldn't be like major winds are coming from the northeast and southwest. This area shouldn't be getting wet at all, but probably because of the shape of the building and other factors, wind regularly goes into this area. Or maybe it could be this arm over here that's making it sort of like a wind funnel. So the wind is a lot stronger, especially if you sit here in the like lobby here. It gets very windy during like the colder seasons. And this area here in front of like the classrooms really gets wet during the rainy season. So maybe 1.2 for if you have like a shape like this, but I don't think it's a big factor. Let's see here. Where'd my thing go? I don't think it will be a big factor if your building is like closer to ArchiGlobal shape, especially since we're shielded by the science building, the SMED building over here. Wait, I'm on the wrong layer. The SMED building over here, and we have like the chapel and the trees protecting us over here. So we should be relatively dry. We maintain like proper eaves, like 1.2 eaves, like on both sides. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. We covered ventilation, acoustics. I'm not super familiar with, but I think there's like online resources for this. Also, I really want to draw your attention to, where is it? The message, Sir Jackie. Okay, that's another thing. Classrooms. So if you're not using our like free books, please use them. You can get them over here. Reference books. I'll send you the link, copy link. I'll put it in here. Oh, we have a comment. Sorry, I just saw it. So I think what that means is that there's a window on the hallway side. Students will be distracted during class when students passing by the hallway. Yeah, you don't want to see other people there. You might be distracted. So that's like a challenge.
Sir,
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
For the detention pond, sir, but do we reinforce it with concrete or do we just leave it as is nga soil or siya?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the beauty of detention ponds. You can just leave them as soil. Ideally, it should be like without any like concrete. It should be like natural soil. So detention ponds. And then you can just basically cover it with Bermuda or all of the other grasses. So if you put it like if you put like concrete, it will become more like a pool because the idea is to let the soil absorb the water naturally. Yes, there was another question.
Aside from that, sir, ba, can we put other vegetation?
You can put some landscaping on your detention ponds. The reason I think you don't see it so much in like these images, I think it's because for budget. They just want to leave it. They just want a dent, a small sort of like concave surface on the area without much landscaping because like landscaping costs extra money. You need to have like different kinds of plants. You need to water them, etc., etc. Over here, you see, let's see. I think there's some built up areas here. I think that's just like a case-to-case basis. But from what I understand, what Brother Bella wants is just like simple, natural detention ponds. So no need for concrete. Okay. Any other questions? I think I can stay until like 12:30, but I think this video has gone on long enough, so I'll stop recording. And then for any other questions, feel free